Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming in tonight. At this time, at 6:30 p.m. on May the 11th, 2023, I will call this City Commission meeting to order. Here.
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 All right, thank you. Do we have anyone in the audience tonight that would like to do an invocation for us? All right, if not, if we will stand, we will take care of it. And we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Most gracious God, as we come now to discuss the business of this city, God, just lead us and guide us, Lord. Bless us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, God, that we can do what's best for the city of High Springs. And again, we say thank you for each and every employee, God. Thank you for everyone that be a part of this city to make it a great city. So again, we say thank you for all your many blessings. In your sweet holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Commissioner Williams. Okay. Approval of agenda, please.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and second that the agenda be approved as printed. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Agenda approved, 5-0. Next item is approval of consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion for the approval of the consent agenda for meetings April the 2023 Joint County and City Commissioner meeting and meetings of April the 27, 2023 Commissioner meeting.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that the consent agenda be approved as printed. All those in favor respond with aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Consent agenda approved. Next item is a special presentation, a proclamation for Public Works Week. Are you ready down there? You gonna read it for me?
Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewer, streets, highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. Whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work that they perform. Now, therefore, our mayor, Gloria James, as the mayor of the city of High Springs, Florida, hereby proclaims the week of May 21st to the 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week in the city of High Springs, and calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contribution these public works officials make to our everyday health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. In witness whereof, our mayor has set her hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the city of High Springs, Florida, this 11th day of May, AD 2023, signature for Gloria James, our mayor, and attested by Angela Stone, our city clerk. The appropriate motion is to pass the proclamation as read by its entirety.
All right. Thank you. And here it is right here, and it's all done. All right. Next item is unfinished business, which we have none tonight. So we will go to citizen requests and comment for issues that are not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes each, please.
David Lynch, L-I-N-C-H. I would like to give a copy of this to each person, starting right here and going all the way around.
Thank you.
That's okay. Okay. Okay, Exhibit A pertains to the issue of growth. I will read the exhibit. This is from the internet, Yale University, Seto Lab. The conversion of Earth's land surface to urban uses is one of the most irreversible human impacts on the global biosphere. The environmental impacts of urban expansion reach far beyond urban areas themselves. Urban areas change precipitation patterns at scales of hundreds of square kilometers, et cetera, et cetera. The people of this community do not want any more large developments. I urge the commissioners not to approve any more large developments. Exhibit B pertains to the harmful effects of alcoholic beverages. I will read it. This is from the internet, the Mayo Clinic. Harmful effects of alcoholic beverages. Certain cancers, including breast cancer and cancers of the mouth, throat, esophagus, and liver. Pancreatitis. Sudden death if you already have cardiovascular disease. Heart muscle damage, alcoholic cardiomyopathy, leading to heart failure, stroke. So this is what the commissioners are participating in when they allow High Springs Brewing to use the High Springs name.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name's Lanier Smith. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of myself and the Lions Club. Wondering if y'all can, I wanted to let everybody know that on May 27th, the Saturday Memorial Day weekend, we're doing our second annual fundraiser for Gold Star families. And I have a banner, which is about 2.5 feet by 5 feet long, that I would like to hang somewhere in the city. I don't need an answer now, but if y'all could think about some place, if it would be okay for me to hang that, where maybe traffic can see them, I'd appreciate that. Also, Damon, before he left, we were pretty much in touch. He mentioned to me that the city has a website that with 100,000 viewers or 50,000 or however many it would certainly be more than what we have. But we don't, we've, in the 12 years that I've been a part of the Lions Club and a leader there, we've always worked to try to work well with the city. And it was Damon's idea that he said, why don't you send me your flyers or whatever's going on so that we can share it on our website. I've been here 12 years. I never knew y'all had one. So we're all guilty of not paying attention to what the other people are doing. But We do have an event coming up on Saturday, May 27th. It doesn't require any permits because it starts in the morning and ends well before curfew. So, but if anybody would like to come out and, see what the club's about and see what our event's about, Gold Star Families, it's Memorial Day. That's what it's about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm actually acting on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. I am on the board at the Chamber, wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you to the entire city and staff that made the weekend possible for Pioneer Days. It was actually, weather permitting, it was actually a very successful event for our group, and it would not have been possible without the cooperation from the city. So thank you very much on behalf of everyone on the Chamber for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I could also, I think Jeff and Lanier probably had bad dreams at night with walk wheels and spray paint because they were out there measuring and doing so much to make sure that it was what it needed to be. So thank you guys.
All right, is there another? No? Okay, thank you all. Any commissioners' comments further? If not, we'll go into new business. Item number 1. Discuss, consider, and act on placing an educational mural in front of the old school.
Mayor, may I introduce the item?
Yes, you may.
So the request came from the Heart of High Springs to place the educators mural in front of the old school. As you can see on the overhead where they would like to place it. It's a freestanding sign, and they said that there would be landscaping and possibly lighting as well. It went before the Parks and Recreation Board since the old school is more of a community / parks / multi-use facility. And at their meeting, they're recommending approval. We have Sean Coles here with the Heart of High Springs to speak about the item, as well as Linda Hewlett with the Parks Board.
Commissioners, my name is Linda Hewlett. I'm a resident at High Springs. I live at the corner of Boxcar Court and Northwest 183rd Lane. I have come before the commission as the chair of the Park and Rec Board. At our last meeting on April 18th, the board agreed that the educators' mural belonged freestanding in front of the old school. We were fortunate at our board meeting to have 2 guests join us. One was Mr. Thomas Henry from the Public Works, and the other was Bruce Gillingham, Assistant City Manager. And the 2 gentlemen agreed with the Park and Rec Board that the mural belongs at the old school. The board members and our 2 guests walked outside to the front of the school and decided that the mural should be placed on the left side of the entrance. And Bruce had conveniently parked his car right there. And so CJ, our current Park and Rec Director, and Bruce and I took a picture in front of Bruce's car, and then we showed my husband, and he said that he thought this would be a better picture than us standing by the car. And so in this picture, you have the 24-foot wide mural, freestanding, in front of the school there, and my husband imposed that picture in front of the school at the location where we believe it would be best put. Several community members are here, I think, to show a support for the freestanding mural in front of the school. So if you are here in support of that mural, could you raise your hand? Thank you. Okay, so thank you for your attention. I would like now to introduce my friend and a very huge asset to our community, Ms. Cassandra Davis.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I'm Cassandra Gassett Davis. I'm standing in support of the mural for the educators mural to be placed at the old school. Both of those, Dedeman and Gassett, were former teachers at that school, and they served the community as well as commissioners. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, distinguished council. My name is Sean Coles. I am a resident of High Springs and a board member of the Heart of High Springs, which is a nonprofit organization working to enrich the quality of life in High Springs, Florida. During our Wall Dog Mural Festival back in March, we had an overwhelming amount of citizens admiring and commenting on our educational mural, which memorializes Miss Essie Mae Williams Gassett and Thomas Pop Dedeman. In and amongst many conversations while watching the mural come to life, many people expressed their sadness and concern when it was learned that the piece still had no home. And an overwhelming amount of those people asked why it wouldn't be installed at the old school building as it only seemed fit. So on behalf of the citizens that showed concern and the Heart of High Springs, I'm here tonight to ask for your permission to move forward with the process of installing this piece as a freestanding memorial, not on the wall, but a freestanding memorial at the old school building. Thank you for your time, Madam Mayor, and I hope you'll approve this. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments?
I have one.
Okay.
This is just the city manager hat being put on. If y'all approve it, I would just like that we have an agreement placed between the city and the Heart of High Springs that should it become damaged or anything like that, that we aren't responsible for it, just kind of doing some of that housekeeping and stuff. If y'all decide to approve it, that we do that at a future meeting.
Do you need that in place ahead of time or afterwards?
you can approve it. It's just that it will be coming forward, you know.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. Yes, Mr. Lynch.
I think it would be something of interest to everyone present to know that Cassandra Davis is Essie Gassett's daughter.
Yes, she is.
Don't leave out her son back there too, Mr. Eric Gassett. It's her son.
Your son back there too.
Yes. And one of her kindergarten students. With that being said, I make a motion that we approve of putting the sign in front of the old school.
I'd second it.
Madam Mayor, I've got a couple of questions. I know you're not surprised. Before we move forward with putting anything on city property, I think it would be appropriate to get a copy of the contract that the Heart of High Springs has in terms of installations and how long they're supposed to be, you know, all of the details. I asked for a copy of that over a year ago for you to have, Ashley, and my request was denied. And this has been brought to the commission now twice. Once for the pre-week-long event to be put on the building, and then again when they needed a couple more walls, they wanted to put more murals up. It was denied then. And I would still go back to, I think there's a really very appropriate place to put that over at the current school where current kids would see it all the time. You know, the idea from way back when the Wall Dogs talked about wanting to share their history with the kids, with the community. We could be showing current kids at that school about Mr. Dedeman and Miss Gassett. And there's a concrete block wall that's driven by you know, thousands of times a day. And it's a sad-looking wall, and it could really use something like this. And I would be more than happy to try to help champion that cause with the school. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. I would be more than happy to go to the school board to try to convince them, since it's their property. But I think that would be a more appropriate place for it to go. And I'm not sure why, I mean, obviously, the Heart of High Springs and the Wall Dogs decided to do this mural on their own, and it's lovely. It's beautiful. But I'm concerned that now they're trying to put it on city property when we were assured in the very beginning that it was all going to be private residents, privately owned properties. And now they're coming back to a city-owned building. And that's not a path I'm in favor of going. I do think it's lovely, and I think we could find a really nice home for it. You know, perhaps on the old school at Catherine Taylor Park. I don't know. Ms. Gassett probably didn't teach down there, did she? She did? So that may be an appropriate place as well. I don't know. With us redoing the building down there, that may be a really nice addition to that building for the folks in the Douglas neighborhood to enjoy as well. But, you know, it seems like we keep coming back to this being a city property, and I think we could find an alternate location that would be more appropriate. I realize this is a rather appropriate place because it was an old school. I'm not sure why the Parks and Rec Board was brought into the conversation, since they weren't a part of the conversation all along the way. I guess it's because of the specific location, but, you know, yes, the Parks and Rec Department is there now, but they might not be in 2 years, who knows? So I would request that we try to find an alternate location. And in accordance with our mural ordinance as it is anyway, it does not allow for a mural on a primary facade of a structure anyway. So this would be considered the primary entrance of this building. So in accordance with the ordinance, that would not be in keeping with the ordinance. So I would be happy to talk to the school. I really think it could find a beautiful home there, and it could beautify a wall, and kids could see it every day.
Mayor, may I pose a question? So are you speaking on the contract between the Heart of High Springs and the Wall Dogs, or?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I know that there are specific guidelines laid out there in terms of duration and all kinds of things that we're not privy to. And, you know, in tandem with your request about, you know, making sure that we understand, I think that would be pretty important to understand what the Heart of High Springs has already committed to. If it's going to go on a city-owned property, I think it would be pretty important to see that.
I just, for clarification, I don't have the contract. If I had it, I would have provided it. I think, and as far as the ordinance is concerned, I think the city attorney would have to weigh in, but I thought that it was, the ordinance says that it can't be on the primary facade on the structure, and this is freestanding, so you can weigh in on that, Scott, if you would like.
Sure, there's a number of things, Madam Mayor, that have been discussed already that are touched on or dealt with specifically by the ordinance itself. And first of all, the ordinance specifically says is to create a process permitting owners of commercial, industrial, public, or private buildings within certain zoning districts. So the contention that this is not for public buildings is specifically dealt with in 7.12.01, subparagraph 1, which says it's the process that deals with murals on public buildings. So that is clearly an intent specifically found in the ordinance itself. The definitional section relates to what is a mural. It's not a sign under the city sign code. It's its own special designation. It speaks to what is a primary facade is typically the facade of a building which is most nearly parallel to the widest street to which the building faces. It is usually the exterior side of a structure which contains a principal pedestrian entrance and is oriented toward the street. It's usually the side of a building facing a public street. For corner lots, the street facing the side with the primary customer entrance is the primary facade. And again, I think this particular mural is not intended to be affixed to the structure. It's a standalone particular depiction, so it's not affixed to the building, as our manager just said. There is a contract between private entities that has been mentioned, and we don't have governance over that. That's not some, we don't have any sort of interplay legally between what is the contract between Heart of High Springs and the Wall Dogs. That's a private matter between those two entities. However, there is an application process that is very specific contained in the ordinance. And the application must have the name of the artist and the owner, name of the street address and location of the proposed mural, a statement regarding durability of the materials located on the mural, plans and specifications for the proposed mural, a concept picture, which we have here before us, and the dimensions of the particular artwork. Application fees and acknowledgement under 17 U.S.C. of the Visual Artists' Rights Act, an agreement to allow the city or building owner to remove the mural within 90 days' notice if the mural is not maintained. And then there's later regulations in the event that the mural becomes in disrepair or is not properly maintained. So if that were to occur down the road, then of course the mural could be removed at the request of the city since it's on city property. So there is essentially a process that you go through in this instance, as is stated in the commission agenda item request form summary. Your vote tonight is subject to it going in front of this matter goes in front of the Historic Preservation Board. So this is not the end of this issue here tonight. So you're merely stating that the location is acceptable to the city. Basically, your vote is that upon a fully executed application for mural placement, that will trigger the completeness of the application. It'll go to the Historic Preservation Board. They'll make a recommendation to you per the ordinance, and it'll come back at that point as to whether or not you say yea or nay. But your vote tonight is subject to that process being undertaken, Madam Mayor.
I mean, the old school, where they both had such meaningful time spent, why not there? We talk about the school. The school won't even let our kids play volleyball after school hours in their gym. I doubt they're going to let us hang a mural there, too. I don't know. I just feel like in these, I think it's special for us as a community to really appreciate the lives that these people had. They were more than just educators. They did a lot more for this community than just teach people. I don't know. I think that something exactly like this should be on city property and should be something that we cherish and champion forward. It's my personal opinion.
All right, anyone else? Okay. No one here? All right, audience comments? Come on. Good evening.
Name is Janet Evans. I think that people in the community have said that the murals came out okay, but that what they've had a problem with is the way that the process had been gone about. It seemed like an arduous task here over a long time, and we keep coming back. We tweak things. People in the commission keep tweaking things a little bit, and we keep coming back with the same ideas. And one of them was that this project would not be on public property. That's always been consistent. Well, now we're bringing back pictures that were painted as part of the mural project, and we say, oh, we're going to tweak it a little bit. It won't be on the building, but it's still on public property. We had at least half of the people in our city opposed to this idea. And many people came here to state so in these meetings. Do they have to keep coming back to every single meeting to say, you know what? If this project was approved, it's done, we can't do anything about it. But one of the original decisions was that this project should be kept off of the public property. I think it's great. I think there's a better place for it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the picture. I think the whole process, this thing has been dealt with, has been wrong. It has not followed appropriate channels. It has not been brought out into the open the way that it should have been. It's been backhanded.
Anyone else? Yes, you can.
I don't have a big eloquent speech like some of these other people, but my name is Jody Huey. I'm a business owner here in High Springs and a resident of High Springs. The murals that we have that have been put out are so much for history of High Springs that we should be proud of them as residents of High Springs. They show our history. As a business owner, we have people come in every day that are tourists that ask questions about these, and they want to go see them. It's bringing in revenue, and it's bringing our history of High Springs out. So we should champion. I don't see why we wouldn't put this on city property, public property, whatever. We need these things out for people to see, bring in revenue, and get our history out. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I got a question, just for clarity.
Okay.
Mr. Attorney, so this can be put on, according to the orders, it can be put on public property?
Madam Mayor, this can be put on public property. I was here for all of the debate on this. I was here and drafted the ordinance, and nowhere in the ordinance is there a prohibition against putting murals or such artwork on public property. So I don't know where that is coming from. And specifically in the ordinance, it says to create a permitting process to the extent that you can, and we had a lot of debate about that as well, on public, commercial, industrial, and private property. So I don't understand even the connotation of an argument that this is prohibited. It's specifically directly allowed as a result of the ordinance that was passed by a majority of you, the commission.
Okay. With that being said, I'm pretty much in favor because it's not going on the building itself, and I kind of have some problems with that since it's an old building, but it's a freestanding sign, and if they don't take care of it, am I correct? The city can have them to remove it if they don't take care of it.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other comments? Mayor? Yes.
The project turned out really well. I was just at a Tourist Development Council meeting. I'm vice chair. They talked about these murals. They've all been up here. And they're really jealous, people around not only the county but in other areas, that High Springs did this. And that mural came down before Pioneer Days. My phone has rung more times than I can tell you, going, where'd it go? I have family in town. I want to show them the mural. Where did it go? And explain to them that we're trying to find a home for it. I think it would be an embarrassment at this point if the city didn't have the heart and the will to find a place of public, to exhibit this, that can be easily seen and be part of a walking tour and everything else in the downtown community. That building needs something to make the outside look a whole lot better, and this might be the start of that process. And I'm in favor of the staff working with the Heart of High Springs to find out a way to do it. It's only got a 10 to 15-year lifespan. Maybe some trees need to be planted around it, so that at the 10 to 15 years, when it needs to come down, there's some lasting things that would symbolize both of the individuals as well. A lot of things that can be done there in the process, but the old school, I think, is a wonderful place to put it. It's not a facility that's secured and blocked off and unavailable to the public, which much of the school property is, the community school. So I'm in favor of voting for this.
Madam Mayor, if I may just respond, I understand your passion, Mr. Vice Mayor, and I think the embarrassment would not necessarily be to the city, though, just because the city didn't permit this. This was done independent of that process, and now, after the fact, it needs to find a home. So I disagree with your position in that regard, that it's not an embarrassment to the city. I don't think that putting it on city property would be a deterrent to the city or a detriment to the city by any means.
Let's call the question and do it.
And the wall that I'm talking about, Mr. Vice Mayor, is on the outside of the school property and is seen every day. It's not inside. And it would look beautiful there. I will not say a word to the school. If that is not the desire of the commission, I would be more than happy to ask them. But, you know, I mean, this was not a city project.
Ma'am?
Hey, Jan, it's not that way. If you want to say something, come up to the podium and do it the right way.
Oh, she's already spoken, so. No, I think it is a beautiful mural, and I think there could be lots of different places that it could go. And I think that, you know, with respect to the process, there were many things that were recommended to the Heart of High Springs, like Lily Springs. I had no idea the importance of Lily Springs to the African American community, but now I understand it better. When we were told by Mr. Hancock that the mural for agriculture that had tobacco on it might have watermelon, we asked, please, not watermelon, because that's not High Springs, and of course it has watermelon. So I think it's a little bit, does an injustice to the city to make it seem like we had any say in it, which we really didn't, but I really liked the tobacco one. I thought it was really pretty. And I think this one is really important as well. I think a mural of Catherine Taylor would have been lovely in Catherine Taylor Park. That would have meant something to that community, but I would like to see if we could find alternate locations, but obviously I'm probably going to be the only one saying that, and that's totally okay.
Just as a point of correction, the crops mural, just so everybody knows, it's a watermelon because that's what the building
motion on
owner
the floor,
wanted.
we're not here to discuss the Walmart project. We're here to discuss putting this mural in a school board. Now that we don't have that discussion, I'm not pleased with some of the stuff they did. No, I'm not, and I let that be known. But we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss putting this educational mural in front of the school, which is not going to be affixed on the building. Am I correct?
We've had a motion on it, and motion has been second. So do you want us to do a roll call on this, or do you want us to just agree with it, or what?
Madam Mayor, you do not need a roll call vote. You can just call for the vote.
All right. All those in favor of placing the mural over in front of the old school, respond with aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
No.
All right, motion carries. Next one's item number 2.
Madam Mayor, I'll
Mayor.
be happy to read the ordinance.
I have to recuse myself from this one, I'm sorry. I think this is probably the best time on this.
We'll let you.
There is a form you're going to need to file as well. I know Angela will get that to you, just as FYI. Sure. Madam Mayor, this is ordinance 2023-4, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, vacating and abandoning the City of High Springs' existing 15-foot public utilities easement line west of the westerly lot line of Lot 18 Sutton Estates as per plat recorded at Plat Book E, page 53 of the Public Records of Alachua County, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is passed ordinance number 2023-4 as read by title only.
Yeah. So the background on this one was that in 2003, the city vacated a 50-foot alleyway and deeded it to Gary and Patricia Grunder. It was reserved for a utility easement for a water line that is not there, and there never will be. So now they want to build a garage and greenhouse, but they can't build over the easement. So they would like it vacated and abandoned, and that is the appropriate thing to do in this case. So staff is recommending approval.
No? Audience comments? No? All right, we ready for a vote. Uh-oh.
I just have a question. Would this prohibit, like, surrounding properties? Like, could they not build later if they couldn't get water to them?
So there will not be a water line that comes, we've updated our water facilities plan, and there is not going to be any city water line that comes through, and the properties are developed. So you will use, those properties have well, and so that's what they would continue using. Then they can build with a well.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we ready to vote? We ready, Andy?
You need a motion, don't you?
Yes?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2023-4.
Second.
All right. Is it been properly moved in second that ordinance 2023-4 be approved?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carries. All right, you back on the clock?
For all the times I was told no as a child, I really wanted to say no to that.
All right. Number 3, discuss, consider, and act on Santa Fe Canoe Outpost operations.
Mayor, may I go forward on
Yes,
this
you
one?
may.
So, the city contracted with the city contracted with Anderson's Outdoor Adventures to be the operator of the Santa Fe Canoe Outpost. They've been the operator for a little over a year now. And their business model has changed. They're focusing their attention more on their other locations than the Santa Fe Canoe Outpost. Noticing this, staff has entered discussions with Andersons, and it was determined that it's best to mutually terminate the agreement. So that's what Andersons wants, and staff is recommending that be done, and that the Santa Fe Canoe Outpost not have an operator at the moment, that we make it a city park for people to fish and launch off of and focus on getting the capital improvements done at this time. And then if we want to have an operator in the future, we can revisit that after the improvements are done. But first, just see how it's going as a city park and how much it's being used. The purpose of it is for it to be active and to get as many people as possible to be able to enjoy the river and the property.
Comment, Commissioner?
Yeah. So now you saying it's an open park? There's people just go in as they please, or it's gonna be somebody out there kind of?
So it will be just like the other parks will be open. At the same time the other parks are, and closed at dusk. We'll close it with the gate at dusk, and staff will check on it intermittently. We'll have the officers go check on it, but we do not plan on having a staff member at the canoe outpost, because the main purpose of Anderson's is to provide the canoes and kayaks, so that service won't be provided.
Okay, so no more canoes and all that.
Right. But people will be able to bring their own to launch, and then after we get some of the capital improvements done, then we could revisit if y'all want an operator and just right now observe how many people are using it as a city park.
Madam Mayor, if I may, a question. So Ashley, when the commission bought that property and everything that was there, are there no canoes or kayaks or life vests that have meaningful life that we could continue to let people use? There's no materials going to be there at all?
Right, so they were, most of those were, so in the agreement with the Andersons, it was determined that they would pay a certain amount of money for those as part of the operations, but the majority of those, the vast majority, were not in good operational condition. They were not in safe condition where we would want to use them as the
That's
city.
unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought this was one that we had taken care of.
Mayor?
Yes?
Since we're not going to have the outfitter there, should we revisit exactly what the capital expenditures might be?
Yes, so staff was going to bring those forward when we have a final, Thomas is working on it right now. We're having the building inspected again. And so we will bring forward what that costs to get it where it needs to be. We're working on the boardwalk. There's been some changes in direction with the requirements of the Suwannee River Water Management District and Building Code, and changing it to a city park. Their staff has some more ideas on some pretty cool things that can be done there. So we're getting a plan together, and we'll bring it to you with cost estimates and options for y'all to weigh in on how you would like to see it in the future, and discuss it in more detail at the strategic planning session after we have more information to provide to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else up here? Anybody in the audience? Wait, she was before you.
No, it's okay. I'm Shannon Scott, and I do think it's a good idea to make it a city park. I just request, and I know we might enjoy making a lot of improvements to the city park. I just request that you keep it as something that's free and open to the city. Because, we all contribute a good bit to taxes here, and it's such a shame when something that's been free just gets to where there's an entrance fee every time. It's discouraging when it's like just right close to your house, and you want to be able to go to it, based on what you already pay for taxes.
I understand, and that was considered in staff's recommendation to turn it into a city park and not have an operator at the present time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, Jeffrey Connolly back again. To parrot what Commissioner White said, when Jim Wood essentially went through with the transaction, there was equipment that was there, understanding that at this point it's not safe equipment for us to leave behind. Where is that equipment now?
So what it mostly was life jackets. The majority of those were not, did not meet the inspections that we would use, and the majority of the canoes. There was an agreement with Andersons that for a fee that they would get some of those.
Okay.
And so they did get those because that was in our original contract.
Understand.
But it was, the amount that we could use was negligible.
Okay.
Because
I didn't know if there were any that were going to be left behind that could be, offered to the general public. Because
Yeah.
getting a $10 canoe is better than not getting $10 for a canoe.
So that would kind of be a liability for us to give things that are in good condition.
I understand. We'll have Mr. Walker sign a little release of liability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more question, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So now, will there be like rules and regulations what you can and cannot do at that?
We will bring rules for the canoe outpost and by ordinance.
Okay.
So that it will end up in the park section of the code. So we will get those together and bring those to you.
Okay. So then it'll be up on the rec department.
Yes, it will be up under the rec, because it is, bought with Wild Spaces money.
Okay. So is there a possibility of asking some citizens might want to volunteer to kind of hang around out there just to
Yeah, so as far as, so they will still, so Anderson's and even Rum Island and any other outfitters, they can still drop off at the canoe outpost if they would like to, but there's not gonna be one operator anymore. Whoever has an outfitter business, can use their canoes from their locations and drop people off just like they do at the 27th Bridge. They can still do that. But keeping it City Park also allows the citizens of High Springs and the public to access it at any time and not have to pay parking and all of the rest. And there would be times that we could possibly contract with them or another outfitter just for like a day to just provide, something for the public here and there. But yes, if volunteers want to do something, they can call the city manager's office or the Parks and Rec department, and we'll talk to them and see what we can work out.
Okay. Anything else? No?
So we need a vote on this?
Not really, just we're kind of looking for, well, the agreement is mutually terminated because for the reasons I discussed. So we just need to make sure that the direction is that you want to make it a city park at this time and allow us to move forward with what staff is recommending.
Is there any reason we're waiting till the end of June?
Just to allow them to get off the property and get everything off. We can have them get off sooner if you desire. So, because they could still launch there, just like Rum Island could launch there. Anyone could. So we could make that effective this weekend if you want.
June 1st.
Let's not be tyrants. Let's give them time to get out. I don't think we should force them out.
All right, so we know which direction we're headed. All right, that's item number 3. Let's go to item number 4. Update on status of city budget.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Commissioners, Diane Wilson, Finance Director. This will be pretty brief. We're 7 months, almost 8 months into the year. We're providing an update on where we are in budget. Before we start, obviously the numbers that you see, they're through April 30th, and we're already in the middle of May, so those numbers are already changing. The projections that you'll see are just that, they're projections. I won't say they're a guess, they're an educated guess, but just those numbers are going to change next month. You'll see a different projection. Staff does meet on a monthly basis and review each department's budgets with the director and any other applicable staff. So the department heads are very aware of where they are in their budget, what the concerns may be. The city manager's in those meetings, Bruce is in some of those meetings. So I know when you look at it and you say, oh, there's some negative numbers, that makes your heart stop for a second. But rest assured, we have a plan. And like I said, it's a very fluid thing. These are certainly not final numbers. So, and I'll talk you through a little bit about what the drivers are behind those numbers and what our plans are to move forward. So I like to give you that disclaimer ahead of time so you're not panicked while I'm talking, because everything is fine. I'll let you know when it's time to panic. So I apologize, there's a lot of numbers on this slide. We'll start with the general fund, and this shows our general fund revenues and projections, plus each department and where we stand right now. And again, this is giving us 7 months of actuals. It's a little bit off. Usually you do 6, but just with our timing, I wanted to give you as much as we had. 2 things that kind of stand out. So the last 2 columns of the chart, you'll see there's a 23 year-end projection. That's where we think we'll end up. Again, if I thought I'd be right on any of those, I'd be rich by now. And then the final one is the budget versus the projection. So that's actually looking at the budget compared to the projection. What's the difference? So if you look at the second column from the right, the year-end projection, you'll see the top line is our general fund revenues, and we're projecting that we'll collect 6.4 million at the end, for the whole year. If you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see that we're projecting about 6.6 million in expenses. So if you look at it outside of budget, just a straight what we think we're gonna get, what we think we're gonna spend, we're at about a $185,000 deficit. If you move to the last column, that's just saying, how's our projection compared to budget, not really to reality. So really, that's just saying, did we budget very well? So when you look at that, we budgeted a little better than we think that will end up in reality. So we're looking at, we'll say conservatively, a $200,000 deficit. And I will say the projections are conservative. It doesn't make any sense to do projections and then fudge them to look good, because then it's a waste of time. It's a narrow band between, I was telling Ashley this today, they're a little conservative, they're not a lot conservative, but I also didn't want to put them under. So again, we'll get more information each month as we move forward, and I'll keep you updated. So the general fund, like I said, we're looking at about $200,000. The budget's about $6.5 million. That is a big number, so I'm not disregarding it, so don't take it that way, but we have a plan, like I said. Something that sticks out, I'm sure if you look at this, so we'll pick on police for a minute, and I'm not really picking on them, I'm explaining why we're where we are. So halfway down the chart on the right, you'll see with the police department, we're almost $200,000 over budget. So let me give you a few of the drivers behind that. So across the board, we're seeing property and liability insurance is coming out higher than projected, than budgeted. That's my fault 100%. I did that for all the departments. And so we got new rates after we did budget. I didn't do my due diligence appropriately, apparently, so that's on me. The other thing in police is, if you looked at the backup, you saw how old all our police cars are. So we have, I don't know, 21 or so vehicles. They're all occupied, even though some of them are 2006 vehicles. There's 3 spares, and the rest of them are all being driven. We have 7 2019 Dodge Chargers that have been a complete failure. So we're looking at about $50,000 over budget for vehicle maintenance. Those vehicles are being replaced. Those are all leased vehicles. The lease is ending in the next month or so, and we've ordered new vehicles. I'm not sure when they come in, so we'll continue to drive those until we get the replacement vehicles. So that was one that, you know, obviously it needed to be addressed. I mentioned the vehicles again, and I made a point to put them in the packet because that's something we're really gonna have to look at going into budget. We have aging fleet. Some of the police cars, you know, we have one car, they don't have a cage in it. So, because it's one of the spare kind of cars, and that's not good. So Ashley's well aware of that. We've talked a lot about it. We're really gonna focus on vehicles moving forward. The other thing is fuel and utilities. So across the board too, we see fuel and utilities. It definitely went up more than we anticipated across the board, so that's kind of a driver behind these numbers as well. On the police side though too, we remembered that SROs are paid for, so that's about $150,000 a year. So that's a piece of that $2 million budget that's kind of, it comes in and goes out. And it also impacts the salary line. So when you look at their detailed budget and you see their salary, it's like, wow, that's a big number. Well, some of that really isn't, you know, on the street. The other thing, you can look at finance, for example. We're projecting to be $13,000 over. Our budget is literally salary, our financial advisor, and our audit. And then we maybe have $2,000 or $3,000 of office supplies. So that's literally our budget. Well, this year, again, my mistake, we have two audits we're paying for out of the same year. We finished 21 late, so it fell into this fiscal year, and we're doing this year's. So that's why there's an overage there. If you look at IT, we are moving the IT costs that are associated with projects to those projects. What we've been doing is just any IT has fallen in the IT department rather than being assigned to the projects. So that will help. We've also changed the way that we're doing the contract. We used to do all billable hours. We're now doing a flat fee for user assistance, where you lost your password, you can't get into an application, your computer's running slow, kind of the day-to-day user support things that you think of. rather than having billable hours. It saves us a lot. It saves them having to do a 20-page report on what they did every 15 minutes. So that should help us going forward. We've just started doing that. By doing that, you'll see as we move on to the other systems that we will have some overages on some projects because we're moving the IT into those projects. So again, I'll talk about that when we get there. Parks, $40,000 we're projecting to be over. Most of that's utilities. So again, the initial number for utilities was way too low. And we're expecting to have an overage in that piece. We are going to, Thomas is working towards looking at the energy efficiency of the buildings and what we can do to help with utilities across the city. Obviously, he's got a lot on his plate, so it's on his list, so we'll try to get there as soon as possible, but that is something that we're aware of and want to take a good look at. And then we'll move on to other funds. So ultimately, the fire fund is its own fund. It has its own revenues, but it's also supplemented by the general fund. So when we do budget, basically, when we get to the final number, the general fund fills in the gap. So there's fire assessment, fire inspections. There's an agreement with Alachua County to do, it's not called mutual aid at this level, but where they help each other. And so the county and the city of High Springs will pay each other for services when they cover calls in each other's areas. So we make a pretty good, probably about $360,000 a year from the county for doing that. So they have their own revenue source, but ultimately the general fund fills in the gap. So even though they're their own fund, in reality, they're part of the general fund. In the fire department, you can see 182,000 projected deficit. A good part of that, about 113,000 of that, is overtime and the associated retirement and FICA that goes on top of that. Something that we forget about sometimes when you have overtime, it's not just that line, it's the benefits that are based on salary that also jump up. So if you have a significant overtime, you're going to get a pretty significant with your FICA and your retirement too, especially in police and fire. So, you know, we added 3 firefighters, so our budget's a little higher than last year. It was 1.5 million, and this year we're at 1.9. And then the overtime is high. We're basing that projection on what the average overtime has been since the beginning of January, so we got through the holiday season, because that kind of is an anomaly, and just projected it out that that would continue. So again, it really depends on what's happening and who's out and all that. Maintenance of vehicles and fire is about $16,000 over budget as well. They did just replace engines and things, so they really should be in good shape for vehicles moving forward. The next one is transportation revenue. So that's where your local option gas tax goes. That's the line item for the revenue. And then all the roads projects that Thomas has been doing are coming out of that. The other piece that comes out of that is a transfer to the general fund, just like these other funds. So really that, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter what those numbers are, but they're all discretionary to you. It depends on what projects are being done. You know, we set an original budget with the programs, the projects that we knew about. We've added some more. So really, and that's kind of its own bubble, so it doesn't impact any of the other systems either. So if you don't spend all the money, it just goes into fund balance. You don't want to overspend the money because it doesn't have any other source to plug the gap. CRA, similar situation. It's really based on what your projects are and how you want to use it. And then building revenues, they're doing great. They're right on target for budget, and you know, we really don't worry too much about building because they tend to do a good job at keeping that balance. There's a lot less factors on the building department than there are in some of the operating areas. And then the last section, so now we're into the utilities, water, sewer, and solid waste. So with water, you'll see we're projecting a deficit of $327,000. However, there's a couple things that need to be moved that will take care of a lot of that. So when we borrowed money for well number 3, we got $850,000. It was only budgeted, I'm not sure why, but prior to my getting here, it was $667,000. So there's a remaining $183,000 that's still sitting in that revenue that we can pull into water. And the well number 3 project does need that revenue. So that'll pull that in, that'll come out of the 327. The other thing is we have a $70,000 bill that we got from the CDBG project, the water extension, that was actually finished almost in 21, very early in 22, but we had one bill that came late because one of the contractors was not completing their work, so they didn't get paid yet. So when they finally finished, we paid them, but that put it in this year's budget. So there's $70,000 there. We talked a little bit about maybe using ARPA funds for those kinds of expenses that are one time. We know what they are clearly, and it would, they weren't meant as part of this budget. Again, we'll have a more conversation on that, but these are sort of things that we've been talking about internally. The IT, like I mentioned earlier, is also an impact on the SCADA system, which is kind of like the electronic monitoring system that notifies if anything's going wrong in the water system. So when we put in well 3, that involved additional technology for that. So we will probably have some additional IT costs and the data company that makes the system. So again, may or may not look at ARPA. We're going to kind of see how things are going. The other thing with the water, so right now we have, you can see on the very top line that we're projecting to come in under revenue by 100,000. When we did the budget, we thought we were gonna have AMI on board right now. The meters didn't get delivered. They're still not here, probably won't be for another month or month and a half. So the revenue projection is based on having all new meters in the ground. The people that didn't have working meters have working meters, and we're getting that revenue. So I really don't know how that's going to work out, to be honest with you. So to be conservative, I'm assuming that we won't collect 100,000 of it. Again, we'll kind of see how the project goes and when we come on. And that impacts sewer as well. I didn't put an impact to sewer yet because I really don't know, but the sewer is based on the water meter reading. So sewer expenses, we expect to come in above budget. Again, we're projecting that right now. I shouldn't say we expect because we really don't know. The grinder pumps are the #1 challenge in the sewer system. So people that need grinder pumps in their system buy the grinder pump, they pay for it over time. If it fails, we go out and fix it at our cost. A lot of cities don't do that. A lot of cities charge a monthly charge for grinder pumps. They charge, they don't do the maintenance at all until people call a plumber, just like if it's your septic tank. Or if they do go out and do it, they charge for it. So that's something as we go into budget, we'll have more conversations about, but it's very expensive. The overtime that we have in the sewer system is 99% grinder pump calls over the weekend and at night. So if we can eliminate that cost and figure out something better to do with the grinder pump situation, that will really help the sewer system. That's probably, again, we have some utilities and chemicals. Together, utilities and chemicals are about $40,000, but the grinder pumps are the biggie. So we're kind of looking to see what options we have for that. And finally, solid waste. So far, I have people that sit outside my office that take calls about garbage, and so far, so good. Night and day compared to what it was before, so I'm very delighted about that, so is staff. It's not perfect, but it's really, really good. So we are holding steady with our rates right now. The projection are anticipated to come in about $350 over what we're going to spend. The residential rates, we're paying what we're being charged. The commercial, we're actually have to pay a little bit more to Waste Pro, but we're not increasing that rate till October because we do have a cushion, and it's a lot cleaner for everybody if we wait till the beginning of the fiscal year to make changes and really assess where we are. So again, solid waste is in good shape. And that was the last slide. Do you have any questions that I can help you with? I know that's kind of a lot of information.
Yes, ma'am, if I could, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know this took a lot of time. I'm looking at all of these leased vehicles, and I'm trying to figure out, we've got two 2022 Ford F-150s. One is being leased for $916 a month, and another is being leased for $1,400 a month. They must be very different trucks.
It depends on what equipment they have on them. So if you're dealing with police for example, is it a police one?
Yes.
Okay, so it depends on what they have for equipment, what role that driver has.
Okay.
So if you have somebody, I don't think either are Marvel, let's just use an example. If you had a K-9, you'd have a different container in the back of your car where you'd have the dog, so that would be a
Yeah.
little bit more. So when we lease the vehicles, they come fully equipped. They have the laptop, the light kits, the marking, the cage, whatever equipment, I don't know what else. What else do you have in your car, Tristan? I can. Not weapons and not personal gear, but things for the vehicle are all included. So sometimes you look at the leases on those and you go, ooh, those are kind of expensive, but they're fully equipped and all that's under the lease agreement. So if there's maintenance or anything that needs to be done, it's covered by that agreement. So that is
So any
helpful.
IT issues for police vehicles aren't going to go through our IT, it goes through the lease itself?
It depends on what it is, because with the police, FDLE's involved, security is all different. Police is its own special IT animal, because it's all super duper top secret, so.
And with the IT changing from time and materials to lump sum, Ashley and I talked about this some on Tuesday. Are we also assured, though, that we're going to get the same level of service?
Yes, we've had those conversations.
Yeah.
Yep. And actually, to Eric May's credit, he came to us about it. He said, I know you guys are stressing. I see what your bills are doing. We want to be fair and make sure you're taken care of. So they took the projects out of the history, did an average, and then agreed to that. So I was very happy that he came to us with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Have you talked to the insurance company, particularly police, see if there's any change in rate now that we have body cameras?
I did, as a matter of fact. Unfortunately, the answer is no, which I was very sad about because
Okay,
I specifically called about that. When they said no, I was really bummed.
okay. And then I guess I'm a little confused. You talked about the excess funds from the loan we took out for the third well
Yeah.
being transferred over to help offset that oversight, but then you talked about the SCADA and the IT costs for the third well potentially coming out of ARPA. To me, that seems like round robin,
Well,
and
we'll
those
have-
funds should just come out of the loan, because I
If
thought when we
available, I
approved
agree
it,
100%.
that was, okay. 'Cause-
We're right now, we're still finishing up those invoices, so we want to get to our final number. If we don't have to, we're certainly not going to look for ARPA money. If the well proceeds are sufficient, that's absolutely where they'll come from.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
And I've got a bunch of questions, which I'll probably meet with you separately. But one of my is, and I know it's all general revenue, but I think it would be important to know, are we running more calls for the county, and that portion of those general revenue funds are greater than we anticipated? Or our fire department and staff were deployed for hurricane relief. Do we have an outstanding claim for reimbursement that we haven't received funds yet? Or are there other revenues that we need to be looking at that aren't like general fund that can make a big swing there? Because I was under the impression that we hadn't received payment for our costs for our equipment and staff down south.
I'll start with that one. We have not received reimbursement yet. We requested it. It was, if I remember right, about $35,000. We filed things and answered lots of questions, and we're still waiting on that. Scheduling, of course, you'd have to talk to Bruce and Andy about. That's way beyond, but that was one of the things I mentioned in the document. That's going to be a driver of overtime, so really, we'd have to do a breakdown and work with them to see exactly where that overtime fell, whether it was on county business or our own. One of the other things, bless you, one of the other things that we've talked about is, you know, when we have a special event and police go out, they bill for their overtime. We traditionally have not done that with fire. I don't know what the answer is, but it's something that we recently have started talking about. So that may or may not be a solution to some of it, not all of it, of course, but when you have overtime for people to provide something to someone else, you know, the finance person to me is like, oh, we need to get that money. So I feel like I missed a question in there.
No, that's okay. I mean,
Okay.
there are more, but I guess I'd like to see those
Yeah.
those potential revenues. I'm a little surprised that the reimbursement might only be $35,000, because we had quite a bit of equipment and personnel down there. So I'll let you,
Well,
you know,
no,
let's not work
I will
off the
tell
cuff,
you, the first
but yeah.
week we had one engine and a couple people. So we really didn't have a lot of staff. We had staff. And the second time, it was just Bruce and his SUV.
Okay.
So the rates for the SUV are $20 a day or so. I mean, they're really low. The engine, you can do really well in, but that was just for that one first week. So.
$20 a day? That's not
Well,
what we're sending.
I don't know if that's correct, but for like the SUVs, the fire truck's a whole different story. You get a good reimbursement for those, but passenger vehicles, FEMA rate's not so great.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else here?
Okay, thank you.
Anybody in the audience got questions?
I'd like to ask, why is there overtime in the fire department?
That is a question for the chief.
Who is the fire chief?
The city manager is the fire chief. Andy is the deputy chief. The overtime is for things like some of the fires that come out require more men than are on shift. And then they need men to monitor it. Some of the aftermath from the fires, there's additional fire personnel to man it. There's events. There's other things that other departments call us to assist on, or other agencies, and typically those are reimbursed. So there's a number of places that overtime is required for fire.
Right,
I'm Shannon Scott. I just have a question about, she mentioned some of the police vehicles that were a disaster, like I guess not functional. Is the city going to get compensation from the company that they leased from if the vehicles were just not functional?
A lot, do you want to answer it? Okay.
Madam Mayor, the vehicles that are older are vehicles that we own.
We own them.
All the
That's what
leased
I thought.
vehicles are 2019 and newer, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
What I will say to that, just to answer that question, is that when they talk about the Dodge Chargers and working in Gainesville, we've had this issue. Most law enforcement agencies who went to Dodge Chargers bought in heavily because we were told a certain thing, and then they all started blowing up. And so you've got the city of Gainesville has gotten completely rid of Dodge Chargers and is phasing them out. I know High Springs is. Alachua County went to them and are phasing them out. I think everybody who can is trying to get away from them as quick as possible. The whole country was kind of sold a bill of goods, and I think the chief would agree with us on that, they go down more than they stay up, unfortunately. They're just not, they said they were police rated, they're not.
Did not.
I have no idea. I mean, they got issues with like the lifters and everything else that when they idle, the oil doesn't get to the top of the motor, and then it starts ticking, then it blows up, and then the radiator fan blows up.
I just feel like if we as consumers, if that happened, we're all going to throw a fit and get compensation. I feel like the city should get that compensation from the corporation too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's above my pay grade for both those things. That's for them. But that's just some of the questions I know that come up about those vehicles. They're just a nightmare. So I'm glad we're going away from them so that we can keep our guys in better stuff.
That's a really good question, though.
Is that all? Anyone else?
Look into that, if there's any way for us to get compensation from Dodge, because it sounds like there's probably a class action thing going on if it's so widespread.
So that would be this office. I mean, we can look into and discuss it, but a lot of those are so old and we ran them to their death that it's hard to say we get compensation now because we have actually gotten the miles off of them. I mean, it's a combination of them being Dodges, as well as that even though they're Dodges, we keep running them. And once a vehicle gets a certain age, it costs so much to replace and repair. And so I think if we had gone after it when it was not so old, we had a chance. But I think the thing is ours is just that old at this point.
Right, anyone else? Okay. We thank you. All right, item number 5 says update on landscape and tree preservation ordinance.
Mayor and City Commission, the landscape ordinance is before you, and it will be going to Plan Board at the June meeting. I just put it before y'all so you can take a look at it. It's pretty extensive. It's more extensive than many of the ordinances that will be coming to you from the LDC. So we just wanted to get some feedback from y'all, if possible, before it goes to the plan board. That way we don't start kicking it back and forth between the plan board and city commission. So, because I think what would happen is by the time it gets here after plan board, y'all want some tweaks and probably enough that it'd have to go back to plan board. So if we can get some input, if y'all can look over it and email me and Christy, then we can start looking over what's important to you and make those changes.
Any comments?
Yes, ma'am. Ashley, thanks for getting this to us. Obviously, we haven't read it yet, but I love the idea of providing folks with vegetation that's drought tolerant, you know, and grasses that don't require extensive watering. You know, we need to preserve the water by all means. The one thing that I'd like to stay away from is requiring. I think we could strongly encourage, you know, maybe in development areas where there's a public space, I think we could probably go so far as to require that they use Bahia instead of St. Augustine, because it's just not going to require as much water. But in terms of people's personal yards, I think I'd like to be a little bit more forgiving there. But I love having recommendations, and I wonder if there might be an opportunity to partner with the local nurseries as well. You know, to get their feedback on what they say works well here.
Yes.
You know, and then we could also be helping our businesses to thrive as well. But yeah, Billy Joe could give you some input on this for
that's
sure.
a good idea.
That's a great
Definitely.
idea. But I just want to stay away from there being a requirement, but definitely a strong recommendation that, you know, 40% or whatever is drought tolerant and whatnot. Thanks, I appreciate this.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, are we ready for our city attorney report?
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
All right. City manager.
One of the big things is, so Vice Mayor Ambrose received the Hometown Hero Award from the Florida League of Cities, which is a pretty big deal. So hopefully we can celebrate that at a future meeting, and those are given to people who spend time working, lobbying and trying to advocate for cities and home rule and keeping up with all the bills that the legislature is passing and are trying to pass and advocating for the community. So I want to congratulate him on that.
Good. Yes,
And
yes.
the other big thing is the wastewater treatment plant. So we are receiving an additional $3 million. So we will have some more ARPA funds available to us now.
All right.
So Swanee River Water Management District, we received that news this week. Thomas and Bruce went down and were really said all the right things. So the other thing is, as you know, we were seeking an appropriation for the Priest Theater. So the Senate has agreed to give us some additional funds as well. So right now, between the House and Senate, they are recommending to the governor's office $1,040,000 towards the priest. And so it still needs to go through the governor's office, but we do anticipate him not vetoing that or anything. We anticipate that going right through. So as soon as I get the information, if it's past the governor's office, I'll let you know.
Oh.
There was one more thing. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was important. I'll let y'all talk, and if I find it, I'll come back to me at the end.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Oh, wait, I found it.
Okay.
Christy has put, I had her, there was a meeting with the school on the district-wide rezoning. They went over how, like, currently there are no plans to build additional schools, but they are going through a process, and at the end of the packet is the dates that are open to the public right here, April, there's some community input. Well, that was April, May, that was the first one. There's ones coming up like in August and some other months at the very end of the presentation. It's in the packet. Oh, here they are, the last page,
The last
August
page.
16th,
Yeah.
August, September 19th, October 17th. And so I'll get those to Kevin so he can get those meeting dates out on social media as they come. So I know a lot of people are interested in that. From what I understand, at those meetings, there will be discussions on where new schools will be put. Not sure the outcome of that at all, but that's good to be active in that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Werner.
I just want to thank city staff. They've been working really hard, and it's showing. We're able to pull in a lot of things now that, they've said we're hoping to get, and now we're actually getting them. So I really appreciate the hard work that y'all been putting in. Thomas, I think I heard your name about 37 times tonight, so I feel really bad for you, actually. Sorry for that. Congratulations, Vice Mayor Ambrose. That's quite an honor.
Yes, it is.
Other than that, no. I just really appreciate everybody coming together for this.
Kevin, really nice job handling all of the social media posts with the Air Liquide situation. You were answering people's questions in real time, and it made a big difference. And, obviously people were concerned, and I appreciate everybody who worked out there, who's still working out there, handling all of that. And I thank you for all the work that you did at Pioneer Days. Chief Shepherd, you need to talk to this guy about softball league with the swing I saw out there at the batting cage. I'm just saying, he looked good, and he's a southpaw.
Oh, I got a spot for you.
So he looked really good. And in terms of Pioneer Days, Sharon wanted to be here to just kind of give everybody an update, but she got hit in her car today. She's okay. But a lady ran a red light, and she called me before the ambulance got there. I heard them. She goes, I was going to be at the meeting tonight, and I couldn't be there. I just went, it's okay. So she's okay. Her car's not so good, but just mad props to her and Andrew for all of the work they do all year, and to Chief, all of your staff. They were amazing. Kevin and the folks that were there for the whole time. Every vendor that I talked to was so pleased, even though the rain put a little bit of a damper on things and the wind was profound on Sunday. It was a great success, and I had a really nice weekend. I have been getting questions about commercial recycling and whether or not it's going to be available, and I've been letting people who let me know that Kevin's shaking his head. Are we not going to be doing commercial recycling?
Madam Mayor, state statute prohibits franchise agreements between municipalities, including commercial recycling. That is from Dana at WastePro. If commercial accounts want to set up their own recycling, they have to do that through WastePro themselves. That is my understanding.
Okay.
That's good to know, because I had that
correct,
same
Mr.
question
Attorney?
asked me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Whew, got my facts straight.
Okay. And the only other trash question I had was for the same dumpsters that have been a real buzzer detractor. And we've got Fabulous Prohibition Pizza coming in, and they're doing a whopping great business. So we've got another food, and I don't know if there's what kind of things we can do there, if we can get another dumpster. Diane has an answer.
Madam Mayor, I do have an answer.
Thank
So
you.
Nate from Waste Pro happened to be in our office today, and that's been coming up a lot. So what they're going to do is increase the number of times they empty the dumpsters and determine what the appropriate number is. And then we will bill appropriately, because yes, it's a shared dumpster. We're concerned about the additional garbage from Prohibition Pizza, not because of them, but just another vendor using it. So anyway, that's I guess I'm done, right?
Bruce had also told me that there was going to be an option for individual businesses, if they wanted to get their own cans, so they didn't have to use a dumpster. And I don't know if that's. Do they go?
That's
do they talk
true.
to Kevin about that, if that's an option, or do they go to Bruce? Who should they talk to?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, a couple of things. Diane brought it up about the grounders pump. We really need to address that grounder pump issue. It's just, in a sense, we can't redo what's done, but we need to get handle on those grounder pumps. That's just, if you ever go out there and look, it just, That's a ground to pump graveyard, if you want to put it that way. It's ridiculous. It's just something we need to do.
We've been kicking around a number of ideas, so we'll be bringing you something.
Please do. I wish we can change them all out to gravity, but I know that'd be quite expensive.
Yes.
But that's an issue we really, really, really need to address sooner than later. Can't keep kicking that can down the road. Yes. Next thing is, I want to invite you guys out for the High Springs Homecoming, not this weekend, but next weekend. The banquet is Friday night. I have only maybe 5 or 8 tickets left.
All right.
Antoine.
Gotta get them while they're hot.
Yeah, yes, you should. And I do have some for the city manager here. That's 2. She didn't get no special treatment, y'all. She paid for. Again, and that festival will be that Friday. I mean that Saturday. And Catherine Leah Taylor Plot, please come on out. Fun for everyone. So please come on out. And then on that Sunday we'll have our worship service at Mount Carmel United Methodist Church, and everyone is welcome to attend. Again, we say thank y'all for all the good work you do. I want to say thank you to staff, and Thomas, you're doing a good job, man. I keep hearing your name. You must be a busy man.
He's a busy man.
Yeah. So again, we want to say thank y'all for the work that you do for the city.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I'm going to echo the whole thing about staff, not only Public Works, but, you know, Kevin and being up real early on Thursday morning.
Yes.
And continuing on. So thank you for doing all of that. And that's all I have.
And to mention that, I'm former military. I slept through that one, Kevin.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
very, very, yes. That's very, very, very unusual for me. So I guess maybe age brings about a difference. I don't know, I just hear a pin drop, but.
I felt it move right to left over my body.
I did not.
I
And
absolutely
I'm
did.
closer, I guess, yeah, I am closer.
You
to
are.
you. Yes, yes, but.
When
again,
I heard it, I thought it was a transformer. Yeah, because the lights went out. At my house, they went out. They didn't stay out there long. They were out a couple of blinks, and they were right back on. So I said, oh, I might well turn over going back to sleep. And then later, I got the news. I said, oh, my God. So, 2, I said, thank you guys for all of the work that you did. That was more than you bargained for, and I know it. So thank you for taking care of that for us. And for staff, for you, all your different departments, all of you are doing a very good job, and it's my pleasure to be here to work with you. So I thank you. And if nothing else, I'll